Hello. It's been a while, hasn't it? It's been 2 months, actually, since I made my last video. It's funny, actually, because the last video, when I looked it up a little while ago, and it was the sugar brain video, and my God, the amount of stuff I have learned since then is kind of nuts. So I feel like I owe, for some reason, there's 500 plus people subscribed to this channel, which makes no sense to me. You all have nothing else to do. You must have a ton of time on your hands. But I feel like I owe you an update since I was going down that sugar diet road a few months ago, and so what since, right? Naturally, if you might have guessed, I'm not doing the sugar diet anymore. And in fact, let's reflect on that first. Maybe we can do that first. We'll call this Reflections on the Sugar Diet, and then where we're going from here, right? Let's do that. So, Reflections on the Sugar Diet. What an incredibly interesting experiment. And I won't say a waste of time. I'm actually really grateful to the sugar diet, because without the sugar diet, I don't know if I would have gotten over the fear of carbohydrate. And I don't know that I would be on the path I'm on now were it not for the sugar diet. And I will explain that. But first, let me just share some of my own experiences on the sugar diet and what went well and what did not go well. Because if there's anybody out there that's still doing that type of diet, there's some things to definitely be concerned about. But not the same things that a lot of the low-carb folks would say. So, one of the biggest things that in the moment, I didn't realize was contributing to the problem. So when I had started the sugar diet, I don't know if it was like a week later, I had to go on a work trip. And I was gone for 4 days. And the trip involved driving a fair distance, like 10, 12 hours. And so the night before that drive, I could not fall asleep. Literally could not fall asleep. And I attributed it solely to the idea that I was just nervous about having to drive so long and far the next day. And now, looking back, I'm like, moron. Duh. The reason you couldn't sleep was because you were running on pure sugar, and what I didn't understand at the time was how much that was contributing to the stress state in my body. And I literally could not bring myself down to go to sleep, which is nuts. And then that also happened again the day that we had to drive back, the night before. Could not sleep. And what's funny is that in between, while I was down there, the night that I slept the best was the day that I had some fat and some protein along with my carbs. And I actually slept better. Weird. So it's almost like that there's something to that balanced approach. So anyway, I didn't put that together then, and I actually didn't put that together until a couple of weeks ago, which is when now it's been more than a couple of weeks. So I'd say probably for the last 6 weeks or so, once I moved on from the sugar diet, I was kind of listless, aimless, and not really sure where I wanted to go. And then I saw Indigo, I think it's Indigo Nilly, I think that's her channel. She had Jay Feldman on her channel. And I listened to Jay, and that was when I got re-exposed to the world of bioenergetics, the work of Ray Peat, and I actually started digging into that. So I'd heard of this in the past. I mean, I think this is sort of what's inspired me not having polyunsaturated fat for the last 4+ years, is work that's probably derived from Ray Peat. So it's not like I'm newly exposed to the concepts of Ray Peat, but I definitely went headlong into it this time. So that's kind of where I've been for the last couple of months, is studying that material. So watched a bunch of podcasts from Jay Feldman and his Energy Balance podcast with Mike Fave. Watched a bunch of the stuff. They have a new podcast called The Bioenergetic View, where they do some critical dissection of other influencers in the health space. And so this is so if you're still with me and you're like, all right, so you went from the sugar diet to this bioenergetic thing, what is that? this is the best way, this is the best analogy I can give you to explain the concept. And it does speak to kind of the heart of what I've been feeling about me, my body, my metabolism, versus everyone else. And it absolutely will change your lens on health and weight loss. So I'm going to try to, none of this is rehearsed. We're doing it live. I'm pushing record and I'm hitting upload. That's just how I roll. So this is the analogy. If you get a brand new car, perfect, pristine engine, everything is brand new, vehicle's in tremendous shape, and that car gets, let's just say 30 miles to the gallon, right? If you think about gasoline, gasoline actually has caloric value. You should not drink gasoline, obviously, but there's calories in gas, right? Because it's just energy. It's a measure of heat. So gasoline absolutely has calories in it. So if the vehicle gets 30 miles per gallon, that means that for a gallon of gas, it can convert that fuel, the gas is the fuel, it can convert that into the energy that moves the car forward. The thing that drives the pistons and the engine, that moves the transmission drive. I'm not a car guy. But the thing that makes the car move, right, that's energy. It has to be harnessed from the fuel, which is the gas that you put in your car. So a perfect running vehicle gets 30 miles per gallon. But what if the vehicle's got low tire pressure, dirty fuel injectors, a clogged air filter, old oil in the engine? Just stack the problems that you could have on a car that would affect fuel performance. Just stack those on top of each other in your mind. You get those things kind of combined, and now you've got a vehicle that in perfect running condition would get 30 miles per gallon, but in this state it might get 21. Same amount of fuel is going into the car, right? That's key. Same amount of fuel intake, think food, okay? Same amount of fuel, lower energy output from the vehicle. Now the analogy falls apart a little bit because as humans, right, we're talking about, this is in the context of gaining weight, right? Gaining body fat. And a car obviously doesn't gain body fat. So it's not a perfect analogy, but that's what bioenergetics is really about. It's about getting the machine to perform optimally. So then that gets us back, we're going to go back around to the sugar diet for a second. So what was wrong with the sugar diet? There's a number of problems with the sugar diet, but the carbs wasn't the problem, okay? Carbs were fine. There are other problems with the sugar diet, the lack of fat, the lack of protein. So did you know, I didn't know this before, I did, but I didn't think about it, that fat, dietary fat, when you ingest dietary fat, it releases bile, right? You've heard that from the gallbladder. Those bile acids are responsible for maintaining the microbial area, cleaning out and sort of disinfecting the gut and the small intestine. If you don't eat fat, you don't get bile release. If you don't get bile release, you screw up your gut, right? And where does digestion happen? I mean, it happens everywhere. So as soon as you put it in your mouth, you're starting to digest, right? But that process, the small intestine is a really big part of that process. Super important for harnessing the energy from food and getting it into the bloodstream and into the tissues of the body, and supporting you. So just the removal of fat alone, that causes problems. Protein is also an essential nutrient, right? You need a certain amount of protein every day to keep your tissues and substrate going. And if you don't get it, then your body will pull it from other areas of your body. And now, that might sound all well and good, like, okay, well, I can pull it from other areas if I have to, but that's where this starts to tie in with the low carb space and the traditional view of restricting as a way to get to health. Because if you restrict, whether it's carbs, protein, or fat, your body is going to find a way to compensate for it, and that may not be a good thing. So here's a good example from the low carb space. If you don't eat carbohydrate, right, you're carnivore. You eat meat. You're eating protein, you're eating fat, and maybe you're feeling good. right? Maybe your gut has calmed down and it's helped you with a lot of things. It, in order, you're still running on glucose, right? You're still running. You need glucose to survive. If you don't have glucose, you're dead. No matter how much ketones you're running on, you still have glucose in your bloodstream, and you have to have it in your bloodstream in order to live. Which is why your liver has a process called gluconeogenesis that can break down protein, and it can turn it into glucose. And it comes at a tremendous cost, which in caloric restriction circles they get really excited about, right? Because it's like this thermal effect of food. If I eat this protein, my body has to work to break it down. And then if I don't have any carbs, and I have to break down more protein and turn that into carbohydrate, and that's calorically expensive. And so therefore I get to eat more because it's costing more to burn, and whatever the nonsense is that they follow. But the thought process being like, it all starts with that base assumption that I have to eat less. I have to take in less than I burn in order to lose weight. And while that is technically true, that I'm not denying that calories in, calories out works. However, is that the most healthy approach for your body? Because the stress that you put your body in that restrictive state, even if you're just eating carnivore and you're just eating protein and fat, the stress that you're putting your body in to break that protein down to create glucose because your body needs it in order to survive, on and on and on. Or if you were, forget carnivore, let's just pretend you're a calories in, calories out guy or gal. So you restrict your calories so that you are taking in less than you burn so that you lose body fat, right? Which does work, but at a cost. And you can feel that cost because if you've ever been on your diet, that's why the concept of diet breaks comes up in the health space, right? They talk about diet breaks because it's mentally taxing and physically taxing to be in a sustained caloric deficit. And so the diet break is there to give you a mental break and to give your body a break, and you're supposed to try to eat at maintenance. But there absolutely are disciplined people out there who can do that and they can make it work. And my hat's off to you. I can't do that. And if I tried to do it, I would crash and burn. I'd be good for a few weeks, maybe a month, and then I'd see some sort of food, fuel, carbohydrate, whatever, cookies, whatever, and it's going in. And nothing's going to stop it because that's just, the body is craving fuel. I have a problem taking that fuel and converting it into energy. And it turns out that I've had this problem my whole life. And if I think back as a kid to where it started, I've been eating polyunsaturated fat as long as I can remember. I think I was at church. I must have been 5 or less years old. And I remember walking around church with a bag of chips that wasn't in the traditional chip bag, the kind of vertical, somewhat thin chip bag that longer, taller than it is wide, right? No, I didn't have one of those. I had a bag of chips that the bag was in a box. Do you know those chips? You ever heard of those? Those potato chips? Absolutely fried in seed oil from that age, at that young age. And I remember walking around that church. We were doing some event, and I'm just eating out of this bag. And I just can't stop eating from that young age, which is how you get to 300 pounds by 16 years old. And if I think back to what I ate over the course of that period of time, so much of that food was trash. Not just carbohydrate. Carbohydrates in and of themselves are not trash, but wheat covered in glyphosate, trash. Absolutely seed oils, fast food, French fries, like fried chicken. I didn't eat beef forever as a kid. It was like all I would eat is chicken, and it typically had to be fried. And that's just how I was wired. You just add that up over time. For a number of years, my parents owned a grocery store, so I could just go over to the grocery store and grab what I wanted to eat. I would eat Hot Pockets every day, all summer. I would eat Hot Pockets for lunch. I would grab a Sprite with those Hot Pockets, chips, Doritos, like the back in the 90s, 99-cent bag of Doritos. It wasn't like a full bag, but it was like a bigger bag. It wasn't just the little things you get now. but man, I mean, and then I would eat. I remember eating big bags of tortilla chips, Santitas tortilla chips, and using the tortilla to scoop up and eat corned beef hash. So corned beef hash, which is like corned beef and potatoes in a can, like, and it falls out of the can into the bowl, and I would microwave and I'd eat that whole bowl. Imagine the salt and the poofa, and just like, and then I would wash it down with a quart of like 2% milk, like in a jar, like a savage. So yeah, that got me to that 300-pound mark at 16, and then ever since, like, I've just, the number of things I've done to break this engine, it's a lot. And that's the short of this. This video is already getting long, but my engine's broken, which is why I'm in the state that I'm in, and I'm going to fix the engine. So not only did I subscribe to Jay's Energy Balance course, and I've been in that for the last 6 weeks, I'm actually going to start coaching with them next month. And I've cleared it. I can talk about it. I'm not going to give away the farm, obviously, but I'm absolutely going to talk about the experience because it's my experience. So anyway, that's the update. No more sugar diet. I'm on to bioenergetics. It is nuanced. It's not a lever. And weight loss is a byproduct of being healthy, not the goal. Okay? So that's where I'm going. I'll keep you posted on how things go, but that's enough of an update for now. Peace out.